We care for them. We thank you for all the blessings upon this nation, this beautiful nation of ours. Thank you for the Prime Minister, Opposition Leader, all the ministers and members of Parliament. Continue to guide us, bless us, so we can lead our people properly. Let us all agree and offer the word of prayer as Jesus taught us. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven.
Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Thine is the kingdom, power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
You may resume your seat. Honourable members, any petitions? No petitions? Honourable members, any notices? No notices. Honourable members, question time, question without notice. Member for Kundia-Gembong.
Thank you, Acting Speaker Long. Give me a chance, Long. Asking questions in the morning time. My question is directed to the Minister for State Enterprises. That's in relation to a funding to build an NDB office in Kundiawa, in Simba Province, some time ago, when Minister Richard Maro was the National Planning Minister. I'd like the Minister for State Enterprise to confirm in this House and to the people of Kundiawa-Gembong and Simba Province to establish the whereabout is the funding in NDB. And on the eve of this budget, which will be passed on Friday, can he confirm to the House and the people of Kundiawa-Gembong and Simba that the NDB office will be built in Kundiawa town? That's very important for SMEs and small business owners in Kundiawa and Simba Province, for which they have been traveling down to Goroka and again to access the facilities, NDB facility provided. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister for State Enterprise.
Thank you, Mr. Assistant Speaker. I'd like to thank the member for Kundiawa-Gembong for this important question. Firstly, I want to inform the member in Parliament that I am not aware of funding being allocated either in the National Planning Budget or within the National Development Bank's working capital budget to build or even improve whatever is remaining of our premises in Kundiawa. But I will check. If I were, I would inform him. But for the information of the member as well as others, NDB has been embarking on a building plan to properly house all our accommodation, banking facilities, and accommodation for our staff right throughout the country, starting in places like Leh. They've renovated the existing facilities. They renovated the existing facilities in Hagen. They built a new facility in Maprik. They built another one in Tari. So it's an ongoing program, and I can, in partnership with the local members of Parliament from the various areas. So I will do my best to check, and if there is no such program, I will ensure that that people of Kundiawa deserve good bank facilities from the from the National Bank, and I will ensure that included in the program for next year will be a new building perhaps for the town of Kundiawa. And I can also say that this government has also taken notice of the demand for water supply in Kundiawa, and to the water PNG program, there is ongoing major works program for the people of Kundiao so that they can have access to water. Thank you, Member for Kundiao Gambok.
Member for Jimmy.
Thank you, Speaker. I would like to ask a question to my good brother Minister for Provincial Government and Local Level Government. My question, maybe I say some backgrounds before I ask my question. Right after election, after declaration of our governor and 3 of the local MPs, all kata LLGs, blomibla oliko lo camp. All staff lo camp, lobby long, sanisim president. All staff, even staff today. Mibla ronim PEC, mibla makim deputy governor, na mibla tok nogat, all staff yet, all tok segula kam lo mospi. Now, online lo department belong you, only conduct na staff lo Chihuahua province. Lo conducting display president election. Word of no confidence belong all presidents, only like make him. Point 1, also me like Sawe. One mass because kind of some call LLG blow me. This year, lo February, and mibla through lo department blow you, mibla talk also more no got substance long. Sanisim president. Larem stop. Now I mean no winning 1 year and now all like lobby again. Now online blow you lo most department facilitate him this plan. Now you away, secretary away, even me no away, president you know governor blow me no away, north na south waki tubla MP na minister you know away. So please you talk save long flow na people of Chihuahua and direction blow you. Now only make him display, all two like Sanisim deputy governor mibla makim low itok one mibla makim finish, or like makim all him next PC or like Sanisim again. Now line blue you department staff lo province so some can beg him you give him can help him mibla 4 leaders long province. Now current presidents, now all LLG councillors in total. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Assistant Speaker. I thank Member for Jimmy for these very important questions, and I think this question is also applicable to many parts of our country. So much has been happening, sometimes legal, sometimes illegal, sometimes our officers are cahooted to supporting different political interests in the provinces. And I think what's happening on the ground at Jimmy is exactly political oppositions in the province and district trying to take control. I'm not aware of it. First issue is I'm not aware of it, that my officers are on the ground. I'd like to check the issue with my secretary and senior officers, and then I can put that in writing to Honorable Member for Jimmy. But having this opportunity, let me also clarify a few issues. If a president has contested the recent national election, then by law, there is a vacancy for new president to be appointed or elected in. If that's the case, then what is happening on the ground is legal. There has to be a vacancy before such to take place. But that also prompts another question. When presidents go on election, if they win or lose, the LLG from which, or ward from which he represents, it automatically becomes vacant. And therefore there's reason to conduct election to fill the position. The way that question has been drafted, I need to properly check and then advise. But having the opportunity, let me also
the question has not been asked, but member also raised the issue about LLG election. And I think it's very important that I should also clear the air. On Monday this week, Electoral Commissioner went out to inform the nation, and that election will be held somewhere mid-2023 next year or thereafter. And obviously, by law, these are issues that my ministry and my department are involved with, and it is within the jurisdictions of the laws that we govern. And it's important that we should inform our nation that this election obviously would be conducted hopefully June, July next year, as soon as budget confirmed. But let me also point out to the House, this is one part of the issue that need to be addressed, but there's also a second part. Second part is the delays in terms of this election, and I'd like to clarify. Under the present laws, both the LNG election as well as national elections are conducted simultaneously, concurrently, and this has created lots of problems, particularly in reference to resource. We have experienced in 2012 that immediately by law, when a return of writs are accepted by government or Governor General, 3 months immediately there should be LNG election to be conducted. But this has not happened because of resource issues. So that election was conducted a year later, which is 2013. Similarly, 2017 election. LNG election was not conducted until 2 years later, which is 2019. Hence, you find that ward members are only serving less than the days that they are legally obliged to serve, which is 5 years. And this is creating lots of problems. And my department is now looking at, we've already done the cabinet submission to look at this issue carefully and to look at how we can structure these two elections in that national government, when it goes to election, LNG government, third level government is still operational. So we are looking at amending the legislation that will give effect to this so that LNG members or ward members can serve their full time, 5 years when they are elected in. We are looking at next year to amend legislations as soon as after the election is conducted. In that way, the 11th Parliament will then amend necessary legislation, because amending legislation also includes constitutional amendments, will be very stringent, time-consuming, and it requires 3 sittings of Parliament for such to be passed. So that's the reason why we are looking at amending as early as possible so that those two arms of government, the national and LNG elections, are given fair support. I hope I have answered that question. Thank you.
Member for Kokopo, what's your supplementary?
Thank you, Acting Speaker. My supplementary to the good minister is if he can explain to and clarify the election of the ward members and the presidents to this honorable house, and also for the benefit of our people in the country. My good minister, through you, Acting Speaker, can you clarify the election of the ward members, whether the people will be electing the presidents or they'll be elected by the ward members in the chamber? Thank you, my good Acting Speaker.
Minister of Provincial Local Level Government.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Speaker. Thank you, Member for Kokopo for very important supplementary questions, because this is, again, issue that is in the minds of our people. Up until now, the practice is that the ward members elect their own presidents. I think that's ongoing, an ongoing issue. There are good side to it and bad side to it, as we all know. There is also the other option, which is allowing our people to elect the presidents when LNG elections are carried out. Again, cost factor is an issue, but this is something that government caucus have been looking at, and my department has also looked at this issue more closely, especially how do we progress this very important issue. We want to have it open, the discussion to be open, and that every elected members and leaders' input must be taken into consideration before we can then give option to the government, and that will be the way to go. I did mention in the government caucus about governors' conference next year, first time next year. We'd like to discuss a whole host of issues, including LNG election, including provincial government and third level government, as to how we can go forward. And there are lots of suggestions that have come forward, and I'm pleased to announce that my office will be coordinating any suggestions and ideas so that we can then get it ready for Governor's Conference. And I think in my absence last week, Governor for Moroboy had asked a question about Governor's Council. This is one, and thank you, Prime Minister. Prime Minister has answered that question. Yes, I concur with that, because that will be one of the outcome of Governor's Conference as to how we can move forward in terms of organizing ourselves to move forward. Provincial governments are very important systems of government. So is LNG. And as time passes, we need to review our structures, our institutions, and this is one way we can look at it and see how we can improve government systems, both provincial and LNG, so that we can best deliver to our people. Thank you.
Governor Jibaka.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My supplementary question goes to the Honourable Minister for LNG, along the same line with Honourable Member Jimmy, who just raised it recently, just now. My question relates to my province. Last month I had my first PEC meeting, and all the council presidents were supposed to be in the PEC meeting, which is required, and they attended. But before that time, one LLG in my area, all the councils got together and put a vote of no confidence against the president. And that process went through, and the sitting president was voted out. And the next day I had to have my PEC meeting. So this is the situation I had.
Member for Kairuku, your point of order.
Can the member clarify as to which of the meetings he's referring to? Because PEC is the Provincial Executive Council, comprising governor and the presidents and members of parliament who are appointed to PEC. Assembly is where every one of us, all members of parliament, including presidents, go sit in the provincial assembly. So, you know, we are getting ourselves confused here. And so public servants are even confusing us more. Thank you, Mr. Assistant Speaker.
Member for Kairuku, your point of order is out of order. Governor for Jibaka, continue with your line of questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Assistant Speaker, that is the structure of provincial government.
Member for Kairuku, resume your seat. Minister. Governor for Jiwaka,
Thank you, Mr.
continue
Speaker.
with your questions and the minister will respond.
Thank you.
And Member for Kairuku, the governor will continue with his statement and question, and the minister will respond. And that should also answer your point of order. Governor for Jiwaka.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question will be very simple and very short one. But what I'm trying to do is give a bit of reason behind what had happened, so that this House can be aware of what's happening in my province, but it could be happening in your provinces as well. As I said, there was a vote of no confidence against the sitting president, and he was voted out by the majority of the councillors. So then I had to convene a meeting the next day, and I had an issue where I had to either accept the sitting president to come into the meeting or allow the new one coming in after it's been sworn in. So that's the problem I had. But the issue here I want to raise with the minister is, my question is that with this vote of no confidence that's being instigated by council members themselves to vote a sitting president out. Now, is this a practice provided in a law and that can be entertained at the LLG level, or is it not allowed by law? Minister, would you answer that, and then we can see where we are, because a lot of the council members in each of their respective LLGs, they're camping, and they are going into camping and spending a lot of resources with a view to unseating the current president. And this is what's happening in Jiwaka right now, as the honourable member for Jimmy has alluded to. So we've got this situation. I'd like some clarity on this vote of no confidence. And in my case, I literally have two presidents from one LLG as I speak. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Assistant Speaker. And once again, I thank Governor for Jiwaka for this important question. I think it's important that we should ask questions so we get clarity on the issues that are confronting your provinces and as it applies to your province and LFG. So if I can answer questions. Otherwise, I have to seek advice from my department. But it's an important question, and I think immediately after election, we are experiencing election of presidents, and especially in the case of where vacancy occurs. In your case, it's somewhat similar. My unqualified view is that if there is vacancy, which I will check with my officers, if there is vacancy, then the voting in of a new president is obviously legal. But in the case of vote of no confidence, in the case of sitting president, I need to seek advice on that, particularly what does the law says about this particular occasion. But again, I can only talk about in terms of unqualified statement, and that is vote of no confidence is a normal practice in democracy that we have inherited, and it happens in politics. So whether we like it or not, it will happen. But to support you, sir, I will check with my officers, and I can then advise you in writing so that your mind is put at ease. Similarly, a member for Jimmy has raised the same issue. I will also check on my officers as to what they are doing on the ground. If they are doing their job, they need to explain to me.
If it is politically motivated, I need to know why are they doing those issues on the ground. We need to have harmony on the ground. We need to have governments operating without having to, fight themselves. We're an important arm of government. We need to deliver to our people. Thank you, sir.
Member for Rabaul.
Thank you, Mr. Assistant Speaker. First time I like talk this morning. Thank you, people blaming Rabaul. Having trust na confidence lo makimo lo this 11 Parliament. Mr. Speaker, my question this morning am we directing our Honorable Prime Minister, Honorable James Marape. Mr. Speaker, since 1994, Rabaul volcanic eruptions, a moratorium was made to freeze development in Rabaul town and is still proclaimed to be an active NEC decision to date. Mr. Assistant Speaker, my plans to rebuild this once iconic town under the leadership of our good governor, Honorable Michael Marum, the Rabaul Business Council, and the local community. There is a question of legality due to this moratorium. I envision promoting development through the free trade zone concept by setting a benchmark for planned investments, projects within the town to draw in foreign investment, tourism being the primary focus. Mr. Assistant Speaker, I have the eminent Simpsons Harbour that is by far underutilized. A tourism hub that needs a facelift, an agriculture-based economy that is weakened by simple lack of attention to details. Mr. Speaker, according to Eastern Britain Tourism Authority, Rabaul Town has received 3 cruise ships since 9th September 2022. Well over 7,000 tourists received within 2 months. Mr. Assistant Speaker, Rabaul Town has a deteriorating road system within the waterfront and lacks basic essential tourist amenities for that matter. The anticipated economic return is incredibly high and needs serious attention. Development plans for this town and this sector are underway. However, how long will this moratorium drive our foreign and national investors away from this once iconic town? Honorable Prime Minister, please clarify if there is an existing NEC decision for the Rabaul Town moratorium under the Disaster Management Act framework. If there is, could you please state any terms of reference for the duration of this moratorium and possibly when this halt can be lifted? Thank you, Mr. Assistant Speaker.
Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Assistant Speaker. First time looks out you Sinan Lasia. You Kisimis Lasia, I think now morning for the first time, if I'm not wrong. Congratulations to you yet, come up member of Logoilala, and also staff Assistant Speaker, you Sinan Lasia. You're starting good work, good, Namiamas. But Milag also talk, thank you, member of Rabaul. Congratulations again, you come up, member of display important siap, you long Rabaul. Question below you long slow moratorium and stop long passing walk long further development long Rabaul in respect to the volcanic disaster it came up in 1994 coming up that me give him assurance lo you member of long Rabaul now people of Rabaul na East New Britain we will look at the conditions surrounding the moratorium with a view of uplifting that, subject to investigation, of course, on what is happening in and around the volcanic area. And whilst the moratorium has been in place, nothing much has happened in and around Rabaul. My government will take it upon ourselves to go and assess and check what is happening on the ground within the balance of this year. Early next year, I'll get a report back to yourselves, member, and to this Parliament and we could restore Rabaul back to what it was before in terms of development work. Also, we talk finish over 7,000 tourists visiting Rabaul in the last month or two. Potential is there. The last time I was there in Eastern Britain, me count him Ogara Sip Isua along this Bay area, the Simpson area Bay, me look him. Over, me count him, I go over 20 plus Sip is Siliflo Displa Haba. And so it's a port that is lying idle. Thank you, Member, for raising this issue for the first time on the floor of Parliament on the moratorium. We'll have a review, assess it, and if it is safe enough, why not? Let's go get back and open the Rabaul area for business. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Bogia.
Thank you, Assistant Speaker. My question without notice goes to the Minister for Public Service. This is in regards to Madang Provincial Administration. Some of us might understand in the last government, Madang Provincial Administration has gone through some very rough times. We had 7 acting provincial administrators appointed. On the eve of the elections, 2022 general elections, we had 1 permanent appointment. Now, straight after the general elections, he was again arrested for some misappropriation charges. And the PEC has convened and submitted a few names to the Public Services Commission for their deliberation. Minister, can you put to rest this issue? The people of Madang are now confused as to what's happening in the provincial administration. Public service is not functioning properly. The finances of the province are not very good. And for us, members of parliament, we would like to make a new start with a new governor, but we still have this issue of the provincial administration not functioning. So, Assistant Speaker, through you, Minister can explain to the people of Madang and to this House what's happening with that appointment. Thank you, Assistant Speaker.
Minister of Public Service.
Thank you, Mr. Assistant Speaker. And I thank the good member for Bogia for the very important question in regards to the position of the current situation of the position of Provincial Administrator for Madang Province. I'd like to also congratulate yourself to become the new elected member for Goilala. And I'd like to commend your people, be able to have confidence in you. Also commend the member for Bogia for coming back the second time, and for the people of Bogia to re-elect him. Mr. Assistant Speaker, the situation for Madang Provincial Administrator is now with the Public Service Commission for their clearance. The PEC, as he has rightfully put it himself, that PEC has sent 3 names. The normal process for discipline charges for any departmental head has the terms and conditions of discipline that they must follow. It's not just another situation where there are two different scenarios. One is if a departmental head's terms have expired, then the position goes for advertisement, and therefore the process for acting appointment can be done immediately. But for the case of departmental heads, they must go through the process of, first of all, deal with the discipline matter. For this case, the situation of Madang Provincial Administrators, the substantive holder was charged by police, and therefore, it's related to his duty, and therefore, it has to be suspended, but it cannot be suspended just like that. It has to come through the process, through Public Service Commission clearance, and then it will end up in NEC. And members of the Parliament and also the public service should know that the NEC is the only appointing authority, and even the only authority that will deal with discipline matters for all departmental heads, including provincial administrators. So for this case of Madang, all the documents have been done. Madang Provincial Executive Council has already done its part, and I'd like to commend the new member for new governor for Madang for processing the requirement under the law for the PC to send the 3 names. The 3 names are now with the Public Service Commission, but at the same time, they must clear the discipline matter for the current substantive holder of the provincial administrator for Medellin. Once the two clearance that must be given come from Public Service Commission. They are a constitutional office holder. That office cannot be dictated by me as the Minister for Public Service. They have their own process they must follow so that they remain independent because they are established under the Constitution. So once the clearance comes through, we have to deal with the matter, and I will bring the submission to NEC for one, to discipline the substantive holder. Once there is grounds for discipline, then it gives way for the appointment of the acting PA. So the acting PA can have the powers to also manage finance in the Medellin provincial administration. I think that is sufficient enough to explain the process so far. So I'm doing all my best to get the response and clearance from Public Service Commission, and then I'll bring in fact, for your information, Mr. Assistant Speaker, the skeleton submission and all these are prepared by my department, waiting for the Public Service Commission clearance. Thank you, Mr. Assistant Speaker.
Member for Karamun Nomane.
Thank you, Mr. Assistant Speaker. I have a short question without notice directed to the Minister for Information and Communication. But especially before I ask the question, since it will be my first time to take the chair, speak in this honorable house, I take the opportunity to thank my good people of South Nomani Karamwe for giving me the mandate to represent them on the floor of this honorable house. Member for your background.
Member for Karamu Nomane. Unfortunately, the minister is not in the house.
I think the Prime Minister is in. Is the ministers of all the ministers, so he could take note.
Ask your question.
I'd like to direct the question to the Honorable Prime Minister.
Ask your question.
Thank you, Mr. Assistant Speaker. As we have read over the last couple of days, the print media, Post-Korea and National, have been having a field day, running very negative stories, front headlines, about the law and order situation in this country. One instance that comes out is the publication of graphic photographs of people being beheaded somewhere in Medellin. It's not somewhere in the third or fourth page. It's on the front page of both the National and Post-Korea. And then there are other stories about pertaining to law and order and crime in this country. Mr. Assistant Speaker, as you know, the media is a very, very powerful tool. And the way they're flying their trade, do create a very bad perception about this government. They're portraying to the people of this country and the whole world that we are not managing law and order situation in this country. And some people would say that the Constitution does provide for freedom of speech and information and expression. I understand, and being a lawyer myself, I know that the right to freedom and expression is a qualified right, and it's not absolute. The exercise of that right is subject to the other rights provided for in the Constitution. And as a responsible government, if we don't address this issue, it has the potential to create more problems going forward. So my question to the Honorable Prime Minister, since the Minister for Communication and Information is not here, as a government, are we taking any measures to address this issue? Because if we don't, we are destined for more problems, the way I see it. Thank you.
Honorable Prime Minister.
Mr. Assistant Speaker, Milaktok, thank you. I just want to appreciate the good question by member for Karamu Inumane, and also congratulate him. I think it's the first time he's asking a question on the floor. Not just congratulate him on the good question he asked, but for his election into office. Brings into our current stock of parliamentarians depth, exposure, wisdom,
and I want to appreciate his presence, and his question is important. Our media companies in our country, whilst they have the total freedom to write or to print or to sell information or disseminate information to our country and to the world out there, they must also appreciate and take some responsibility. You look at Sydney, there is more crime also taking place in Sydney or in other parts of Australia or elsewhere in the world. But those newspapers don't run front page headlines all the time. Some sense of responsibility from our media is important. We don't stop you from running, but give some cover and some good stories up front once in a while. Continue on painting negative image to our country doesn't help in the area where you do business inside. But going forward, we're looking at some of these areas. Media and journalism accountability will be stepped up. You write story, we must write story with your name attached to in the bylines. And if we're also looking at defamation penalties, if someone is defamed, we're looking into these laws, and early next year some of these laws will be promulgated and will come before this Parliament in terms of defamation charges and penalty for defamation, in terms of media accountability to correct reporting and not based on hearsays, not just on the formal medias we have, but in some of the social media platforms. These are being looked upon so that the writer or the spinner of information is actually spinning correct information in society and not fabricated or not fake, not false, not inferences or inferences that can carry greater lie and false than truth. Those areas we're looking at to make proper, correct, factual information being disseminated in public space. And I just want to appreciate this question. We're taking stock of this matter. Freedom of speech is a qualified right the writer and the person holding the pen has. Right fact, right truth, right actual things that are happening in society, and not based on hearsays, not rumors, and not false or not fabricated. And to our two main media companies, the print medias, who have daily headlines, we don't intend to impinge on your right of editorial and the cover that you have every day, but have some sense of responsibility to our nation. You can run the stories, but run them behind cover. Run them second, third pages. There are enough news around. Today we had 7,000 tourists visiting Rabaul, for goodness sake. These are good stories to run, instead of constantly painting negative, because we all live in one house called PNG. This house cannot be destroyed, it must be strengthened. We don't intend to dilute the role of media, but we ask the media to also have a fair responsibility to the country they make money for. Thank you.
Governor Chimbu.
Thank you, Mr. Assistant Speaker. I direct my series of questions to the good Minister for Education. It regards the 166 education reform in Papua New Guinea. Mr. Speaker, we know that education is one of the key factors that improves the human capital, productivity, and the standard of living. In simple, we say education is our future. Because my province has no gold, copper, oil or gas, education is our resources. We must be cautious on reforms in education, especially the 166 system for Papua New Guinea. Because for now, when you implement the reform, you will be having to build more infrastructure in the high schools. And you will start building more infrastructure for early childhood. So my question is, one, when will this program be rolled out to all the provinces, phasing out the elementary system? Number two, what is the budget for this program as far as training and infrastructure is concerned. We must not do things on ad hoc basis. It must be complemented with a budget. If there is no budget for this, how will the TFF be accommodated in this reform? Thank you, Mr. Assistant Speaker.
Minister for Education.
Thank you, Assistant Speaker, and I thank the good Governor for Simbu for a very good question. Firstly, before I answer the question, I thank the Marape Rosso government for putting the weight into education and funding and continuous funding since 2000, since we took the government. And I am proud to inform our people that your government is committed in supporting education by all sectors throughout the country. And I also thank the government for supporting education through this budget, current budget for 2023, education being the major focal area for our development. I, on behalf of the Education Department, our teachers out there, and our parents and Board of Management, I thank the government for supporting education through paying school fees, project fees, and many more. Back to the question. The 166 program has been a government decision that was made in 2016 by the last government, and we continue that program. And we are now implementing the SBC, standard-based curriculum, and it's been replaced. The OBE has been replaced. The decision made in 2016, and the 166 should be implemented by 2018 and now, currently. All schools throughout the country are implementing this program, including Simbo. And education being everyone's business, all provincial governments, all the district governments, LLGs, all our stakeholders, including the donor agencies, our development partners. This is the call of government to make sure we implement 166 program. And what does 166 program mean? Meaning all the elementary prep will now be considered as the early childhood program, and all the elementary 1 and 2 will become part of primary schools. And the grade 7 and 8 be pushed up to high schools. So you got 1 elementary prep and 6, 1 to 6, and 7 to 12, another 6, so 166. So that's the meaning of that. So the national government is struggling to phase out all these programs in terms of budgetary process. So we are now calling on all the provincial governments and districts, take education as your priority. Do not blame the minister. Do not depend on the education department. It is all our duty to make sure our child is educated. So, Governor, you are in the right position. You make decisions for your province, and so you give priority to education. Now, the next question about GTFS, the school fee subsidy that we roll out. You, in your schools, there is a program called SLEEP program, School Improvement Program, that is run by our school administration, Board of Management, and the community. These are infrastructures that you need to identify and make sure that those are packed into those infrastructure programs. You've got to prioritize your activities. Now, Board of Management and the education authorities and governors make sure this is seen to be transparent by all school administrators and Board of Management. In the media some time ago, I said the school accounts must not be an ATM machine for the school Board of Management and the school administrators. And so that we use the money wisely. Your government is committed and we are funding full money to the schools. Use them wisely. Don't get money and go and play horse races and things like that. Don't use money for a school fee to go and buy your bride prizes. You must use it to infrastructure development, school teaching and learning. So members of parliament, the governors, the change is right in your hand. Do not wait for education minister. Your government has already pumped the money through the provinces and districts, used that to make the school become the learning environment. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, questions without notice, time has lapsed. Minister for Education, papers.
Mr. Speaker, pursuant to status, I present the annual report of the Department of Education for the year 2021. Mr. Speaker, I ask leave of Parliament to make a statement in connection with my report.
Is leave granted? Make your speech.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the Parliament take note of the paper and the debate be urgent and made my statement. Okay. My apology. Mr. Speaker, as required by Section 20 of the Education Act 1983, I am pleased to present this Honourable House the 2021 Annual Report for the Education Department. The 2021 Annual Report informs this Parliament and of its performances, achievements and challenges faced in 2021. Mr. Speaker, since this government took office in 2019 to present, this government continues to have education as a priority by heavily investing in this sector. We have introduced the government tuition fee subsidy, GTFS policy, followed by complete exit of the outcome-based education, OBE, replacing with standard-based curriculum, teaching, procuring and supplying science equipment and materials, kits, getting schools of excellence off the ground, to name some. We have, without any shadow of doubt, ensured tangibly that the future needs and aspirations of our people are realized through such heavy investment under the leadership of Honourable James Marape. I will highlight some specific achievements made and challenges faced with each one of them later in my statement. Mr. Speaker, at this juncture, I wish to state that every age and in every land, the power and authority of education have been recognized. South African President Nelson Mandela says, education is is most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. It is not a mistake then that education or learning is set as the #1 goal of this country in the preamble to the National Constitution. We have set ourselves a goal to get rid of ignorance in every form in order that we can shine forth in every way as a fully grown, organized human being. We call it integral human development. Mr. Speaker, our Prime Minister, Honourable James Marape, his inaugural address to Parliament on August 9 made a plea to ensuring that every Papua New Guinean child is educated to grade 12 level by year 2027. He said each child must receive a quality education. He said we must utilize digital technology in our education system. The Prime Minister has directed us to integrate flexible open distance education or FODE into the formal education system and to remove all obstacles so that a clear pathway is made for students coming from this branch of education to progress into tertiary sector. In 2021, we have increased our enrollment in FORD from 30,000 to 55,000 enrollment throughout the country. He called us to expand teacher colleges and technical colleges to double their intake. Mr. Prime Minister said all our schools must teach business and commerce so that there is a direct link between our education system and the micro, small and medium enterprises in this country. The Prime Minister said we must partner with the Defence Force and the National Volunteer Services so that our school leavers at every level can pick up and train in the sector for useful engagement in the society. These directions from our Prime Minister now became our command in Education Ministry and the Department of Education. These are dovetailed with the National Education 2020 to 2029. We have further structured the Prime Minister's directions into the overarching goals in education. And these are: goal number 1 is to ensure every child is educated by grade 12 by year 2027, and number 2, to ensure every child going through this system receives topmost and quality education. Mr. Speaker, these are not mere statements of intention. These goals are work in progress. In summary, they buttress our government's twin goals to improve access to education to grade 12 by year 2027 and to deliver quality education. Papua New Guinea will do the following with the full participation of every province and district. Provinces and districts must take the front seat and take lead. We have a very decentralized education system, and you own and operate schools, whilst my portfolio and the department are responsible for policy and standards. Mr. Speaker, to ensure we start education in early childhood and give a solid 13 years from prep education to grade 12 at a government cost by 2027, I call each province and district to eliminate dropout at grade 8 in 2025 and phase out dropout in grade 10 in 2027. We aim for no dropouts in our country, Papua New Guinea, by year 2027. And this must, Mr. Speaker, possibly by undertaking the following, all of us in this term of Parliament. Number 1, we're taking ownership. I ask that the provinces primarily take responsibility of high schools, grade 7 to 12, and vocational technical colleges, and district focus on preschools, elementary, primary, prep to grade 1, grade 6. Number 2, we convert all high schools to secondary schools taking grade 7 to 12. We prepare to support and endorse all high schools with grade 7 to grade 10 to take up grade 11 and 12. Number 4, we build more classrooms and schools to increase access and reduce class sizes. Based on our projections, we propose that we build 2,243 classrooms by year 2027. Or, in other words, every district must build one high school each year for the next 5 years, or add 2 new classrooms to existing schools, grade 9 to 12, each year. And number 5, we collaborate to have food introduced in every high schools and vocational training centers. Mr. Speaker, I further call for us to support the training, support to train competent teachers to improve people-teacher ratio, provide 1 textbook per child. This can include provision of e-copy on tablets. In collaboration with Department of Higher Education, train more and quality teachers, increase school inspectors to schools, and teachers by accommodation in every district. provide every school access to electronic education. And so all schools have a school learning improvement plans, SLEEP programs. We increase our budget to education at all levels to 20% of our budget every year. We hold every school to account for public funds we invest in schools and to ensure that teachers attend at school and in class is mandatory amongst others. Mr. Speaker, at this point, I should like to also briefly outline some major work undertaken by the Department of Education in 2001. In response to COVID-19 pandemic, the Ministry of Education immediately developed the Education Emergency Response and Recovery Plan, known as EERRP. Under this, and in partnership with Global Partners of Education, GPE, and the Government of Australia, we have introduced our MyPNG home page with digital learning contents and developed home learning package to support students living at home. I would like to place a special appreciation to the Global Partners for Education, GPE, and the Government of Australia for their timely and generous financial contribution to our COVID-19 response efforts in education. We will continue to pursue this initiative, innovation and initiative, to make them more sustainable and systematic so that Papua New Guinea children can continue to learn from wherever they are. Each new member of parliament has been given a tablet during induction week, and others will receive theirs soon, which contains our education policies and plans and other patient information. The tablets we use to our teachers and students are similar, and the contents are tolerated towards learning, or tailored towards learning. I had MPs to purchase this using GSIP for their schools. The government tuition fee subsidy program, known as GTFS, has continued despite the COVID-induced financial shortage, and this has relieved a lot of parents. This policy is given opportunity for every child to come to school and remain in school, and for us to leave no child behind. This continues under the Marape government into the future. Mr. Speaker, furthermore, the government of Papua New Guinea relaunched the behavior management policy to tackle the issue of violence in schools and focus on well-being of students and teachers. Our ICT policy is focused on enabling us to excel in digital information so that each graduate in the future is fully converted with the information technology and its functions and their application to advance themselves and society. Our SBC ICT curriculum for students from prep to grade 12 is being developed. In 2021, Mr. Speaker, we have transferred most secondary institutions to post-secondary institutions to Ministry of Higher Education, Research, Science and Technology. We have started the establishment of Jiwaka and Sir Max David Technical College, and will be handed over to the higher education in 2023. We have reviewed the Department of Education's functions and its organizational structure, and will in 2022 restructure the department so that the department functions more effectively in delivering services. We are in the process of transferring other functions of provincial governments to provincial governments and have functioning education boards such as National Capital District, the Department of Education ICT network is connected to all the 22 provinces, including AROB, Autonomous Region of Bougainville. Payroll services have been established in all except Ella Province, Jiwaka, and Gulf. GTFS has been decentralized to 6 provinces, including AROB, in 2022. The Review of Education Act 1993, Mr. Speaker, was completed in 2021. Our Education Bill 2022 will be brought to Parliament soon. All secondary schools will offer quality food to all students, and higher education takes charge of teacher training. A few provinces are leading, including Southern Highlands. We have built a provincial food headquarters in Mendi in 2021 and will do the same in a few provinces. In the area of quality education, goal number 2, the Department of Education has developed a national curriculum standard framework over the last 7 years with emphasis on 4 subjects: CVE, ethics, Christians and civics education and development ICT, and financial literacy packages. We have also purchased out elementary education and have a new school structure in place as from 2018, and have placed emphasis on English and languages of instruction at the school levels throughout the country. The Department of Education has restored and improved integrity to the examination system and ended malpractices and exam cheating since 2016. We had no official incident of cheating in 2021. In the interest of quality education, we have realigned and unified the contents of food and the general education curriculum. Work is in progress for a single examination at grade 12. In addition, we are progressing well with National Schools of Excellence, what we call STEM education. I will give a separate statement on Parliament on the National School of Excellence in a later date. Mr. Speaker, our education plan also dovetails well in the global United Nations Sustainable Development Goal number 4, which emphasizes education. We are leading with the agency to develop our first ever education sector plan. Mr. Speaker, I am happy to inform the House that much of these are not mere plans on the drawing board, and I have tasked every province at the recent TVWAN Senior Education Officers Conference to leave the routine and think out of the box and get the job done. Mr. Speaker, to conclude, we face challenges in all that we have undertaken, but every child is calling and demanding you and I to give them their rights. We give every child deserve to complete grade 12 by 2027. The Marape government is committed to transforming education and to enabling our stakeholders and improving connectivity with all parents, all partners, in order to make education of our child or children our #1 business. Let us make education for all our business and leave no child behind. Mr. Speaker, I commend this report to the Parliament.
Governor Morobe.
Thank you, Mr. LPM Speaker. You right to me talk. We like him talk. Thank you, long Minister of Education, long this country, long Emmy providing ministerial statement. Now Emmy given 2021 annual report.
Governor Morobe, before you speak, you make a move to.
Oh, sorry.
Take note of the paper.
Sorry, Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I may move also in Parliament, this honorable Parliament, by take note of this paper from Minister of Education. Now, me like him talk and up on this statement.
Go ahead with your statement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you through, big thank you through, Equal Minister of Education. Long, give him come long this Parliament, ministerial statement, long Department of Education. Now, annual report, long Department of Education, long 2021, come this Parliament, long by Parliament by Harim this report, not scaling display report. Now, members of Parliament by helping them, long implementing, thinking, Emi come up him, long country blame long Papua New Guinea, now more particularly the electorate where you make some political mandate na come to this parliament. Me talk, thank you. Now, legally talk by me, talk anda long Mr. Assistant Speaker, Old Sam. Now, want something true, me like him talking to this parliament, or some plenty long Papua New Guinea, 87% of the population of Papua New Guinea, also a stable place, separated by mountains, separated by big rivers, separated by big plus all water. You must have long way through. Now all people believe you me before time all white man come out in this country, or foreigners come out in this country. You must have inside through the pocket below mountain. Stop through the long way too much solora I cut him. Let's stop inside through long stop lo big below water. Long you come close to low town now all white man come up him, city government come up him, and we had too much long come. Even today this lifestyle below you me long this country not changed. And stop and stop. Legally grow to go inside, legally place policy me put him, legally war for JT me put him. So let me know enough too much enough him corner long. Place wall people blame me walk along his stop. Honorable Speaker, Assistant Speaker, you have electorate blue you. Time makes him helicopter me fly on top long, electorate blue you. Me say sorry actually me. Big plus sorry actually killing me. Road in stop close to much long tapini. Stop close to true long, equator blue. Road not stop close to. Planting mountain, he broke him straight now, all man some time, all line will make some time and stop. Now, all people is stop all same. In Sabla Islands, Stablo Sipik, Lomorobe, Ogadab, and all same. Then all people in migrate to Camden City. In terms of education, in terms of good health, in terms of employment or finding legal money, or in terms of starting or something of making legal money. So still then, pocket belong all in no change, Mr. Speaker. You may not have plenty of money. Online believe me not have plenty of money inside the pocket belong all. That's all beginning work along come yet, Mr. Speaker. You may work along come up in beginning yet. You had me talk, Mr. Honorable Speaker. Time health minister give him statement to come to the parliament. Me make him talk also. All populace, all papa mama, you pass in mine, you may pass in mine, come up in beginning. You know what ting long behind blown this law beginning. You know what ting. A mama's blue you, na laugh blue you me, and come big blue too much. Now I may pass him here blue you will start in beginning come to the ground. Mr. Speaker. Now you may look same time here. Big blue time through. All the go member will ask you member, Mr. Speaker. All the go member will put him. Can you get to parliament long by combined school people all beginning blow? That's the main reason all put him member to parliament. Big blue reason. That's all member no got money. Plenty member can't man say Mr. Established not money too. When money away by making when a bunch of people all member will look same time. Mr. Speaker. Country blame Mr. Big blue time. Big blue time. Economic basis or financial basis for one Papua New Guinean. Low pocket belong all long every day. And me tumble to mass. That's all picking come up in this year. School belong all bulk is in media. You don't have to stop him by picking it away. You wait now long. Me got money by you go school. No, what? I'm Christmas for average member. Terrible mouse class night. You mean by later put him in school. Mr. Speaker. Also, Assistant Speaker. Me talk thank you long. Honorable the Prime Minister James Marabe. Me talk people thank you long. Now before the Prime Minister, we said Honorable the Peter O'Neill. Me talk thank you long in too. Now Minister you now. Me talk people thank you straight. You know thank you long. Mouse will me thank you. Thank you long level straight. You come to you. And people thank you. Not say thank you me. Thank you people for this country. All work same time. Me man will stop block eh. Me man will sleep club block eh. Life law block miss out and settlement miss out. No place miss out too. 10 years miss out and miss out on life law people. That's what me believe no talk long God, Mr. Speaker. Talk long God to us. Before you go inside the home blow mama, Papa got him salo, you become Abu Sadia, Papa got Saben and Sadim you go inside the home blow mama. Who said, Bay come up lawyer, Bay come up doctor, Bay come up member of parliament, or Bay you come up pastor, who said, and Sabe Pinis, Sadim you go inside the home blow mama. Also, the time you may come out long blow mama, you must come up Disla man or Disla Mary. Mr. Speaker. Also, Mr. Speaker, work long government, Prime Minister, Education Minister, this government long, you will subsidize some school fee long 100% long, elementary long grade 12. You will kiss him lewa grassroots man, also me, Mr. Speaker. You will kiss him lewa plus straight. You know what the man businessman. Behind you finish your member, but you come up, man, nothing you stop number you say. You businessman, but you float and up. That's why you want to find money, also make some member, I come here, but you some time. Now, by you travel or talk now, me make him, Mr. Speaker. Also, the government belong this government belongs, Honorable the Prime Minister, James Marabe, Education Minister, and government. You answer him straight. You make him straight. Heavy blow country. Long provide him subsidy long 100% long elementary long grade 12. Me how much through you play? Me how much through long or begin to believe me long big plus school, long university, long college. You subsidize him school long all. Me got big plan much through. That's the way forward to this country. This is not Australia. And you know England. Over the man bloody money got money. You mean no idea? No idea yet. No idea yet. Also, talk Nelson Mandela. And me powerful talk you mean now. Long since in this country, mira kim jumi come in this country. Nelson Mandela will talk the world. That's what me jumi come in this country. Suppose you mean like in Papua New Guinea come a powerful country? Or become a Savi man come a powerful country? You me too, but stand up in the world by looking you in and talk. You me too, stop saying. And no had key belong him. No had not key belong him. Key belong him and education. Education. Also, Mr. Assistant Speaker, policy of government administrate. Me campaign long free education and we win election. Me no win election no null flow when me campaign long free education. Now me all think that's no government by come or someone because me no got plan the money long morobe. Also, no me to government by answering this question or not. Honorable Prime Minister, you answer him. Now me, I'm a Muslim, you know, from my mouth, but from my heart. Long lewa blo me. Me salim come lo you long government. Long you answer him. Suppose you don't answer him too, but me finishing over the money belong morobe 300 million long when I kind of me put him over the education, government public service number by India and body go, but only can India go. Because meeting to the future and by me make him, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you sit down here. You meet but to talk to you too. Online will meet to play long go la all hard blood life you think him not slab. How about you some copy can char him long? Lo here no must be. How about you some kadi when agriculture crop by come? Hard blood some mountain you go on up. Suppose man you walk in the mountain and by me cross once in the mountains also goatee walking was in a me pray. Mountain and more yet. That's what government answer him, every belong all people. Now me, how much long government? Government, you answer him good true. Now me, how much big play true? Long display education policy, long compulsory free education. All our system label education, you come up him. And Mr. Wisdom, you know, you put him, me one belong him. Everyone belong. But all of these things by cost money. All of this cost money. Also, now you addressing money and big plus something. And big plus something. You must come up powerful. Long one. Education to by you come up powerful. You know what not play way. Education, America started rocket equal space. You don't know something. Education. Education make him come up in rocket, now kind of something and start him go, yeah? One play day, two, one plus start him rocket, here you go, now white man told by prayer. Who says no? Who says no? God, you know, putting one plus Sao long America differently long black man on when I'm long Enga province or Morobe. No, that yeah. Over the Sao I'm saying yeah. We are all synchronized. The world is synchronized on communication system by computer or something. Before America thing all Sao man through no winning stuff and up, all England too, all things Sao man through now, all no need him third world. That's all inventing computer and all things belong all yet no. All inventing computer and plug and square one time all. We plug and square one time all here. All but we were. Me can go America now yet, yeah? Me can go looking Prime Minister, President of America, Joe Biden long when I'm office belong in here. Me go looking at finish here. Me go looking at finish here. Me not can talk him how me go, but me go finish. Me go finish. I'm technology and stuff finish. You don't know how I think. Me go finish long queen and me looking at him place belong in Birmingham Palace here. Am I where? Technology all thing block up in Blongolieta. So technology make him you become level. Thank you so very much, Long God. You become equal. And education tasole, Mr. Speaker. So Minister for Education, we like supporting you school for excellence. We like supporting you. That's the way forward. Before intelligent man, long high school, you come straight to university. Me start on drag off in high school, me school in distinction, all distinction, we come straight to university. Then not going to go to national high school wasting time there. Me come straight there. Now me lawyer, now me judge, now me parliament member there. Education talk na me come stab here. Education talk na me go to good stab here. You know now, Mr. Speaker, Assistant Speaker. So, School of Excellence is a good idea, Minister. You must promote him School of Excellence. Me understand him on the School of Excellence. You come up him Lobawin, and you have my 1,000% support. You know 100, but 1,000% support. And I am there. Disaster, you come, the enemy talking me by close to me delivering 200,000 now. Long over the computer by come back. I don't talk. Talk must, action must match him talk. Talk is not going to win him action. To blow one time by match. Mr. Speaker, so that thing is going to happen. Finally, in the last of all, quality of education we support him. And now quality of English and we go down. And the English and the world's major mode of communication. English. French, no lot of language is stop, but English you win him. English you win him. Also, me asking you to also Malmari Blue. You talk to one time all embassies long country the United Kingdom. Now talk long Australia, talk long New Zealand, now talk long Canada, talk long America. One time all time is stop long high school and drag off in high school. More teachers been come to this place, Mr. Minister. Come long volunteer service. Now Prime Minister was supporting work with volunteer. Prime Minister, you have my heart. We must get more volunteers. Good volunteers. You know, no good volunteers will come in this country. No. Good volunteers. Also, Mr. Speaker, me like him talking Minister of Education. Kissing more English teachers to come to high school. Kissing more English teachers to come to secondary school. You come inside. More English teachers to come to drag off in high school. Now, I never have to learn a good English from University of Papua New Guinea at law school. Not at all. I learned it from drag off in high school at the time. Of the 19 teachers at that time, 15 of them were foreigners. All come to teach through the volunteers. All been come. All English teacher, English man straight, talk less fluent English, and been come teaching me long high school. That's why I speak good English. Me no happy name believe me yet, so you play sa me ya. And you play sa me ya. Amen. And because long top English teachers. That is why Minister of Education, me like him, you go and recruit him, English teachers. Recruit him English teachers from Australia, recruit him English teachers from New Zealand, recruit him English teachers from United Kingdom. All come long contribute me. Provide them the security they need. Give them some legally increase long allowance you want up. Now all by feeling safe. Now all by how much will teach him English long high school with me. Then if he's supposed to be making this plan, Mr. Minister, let's say give it another 10, 20 years or monkey believe you come. All by talk, my level in all man Australia long English talk. Talk place to solve by you in Molia, man. Talk place play you. You can't talk, only talk now you will talk to English, the English play no good also. You know what I'm damp here all by talking. I'm all by questioning intelligence play here. So you all talk English, now you too far him, to play come through long, good play English. No got money win. No got money win. Every man recognizes somebody. You're intelligent, you've accepted intelligence through the language. English language. So, Mr. Minister, I like to ask you, Malmal, will you, Mari, will you, no Malmal, Mari, will you, bring in more teachers? You can bring in some science teachers too, mathematics teachers too. You can see overseas come inside. Long improving quality. Quality students, long one high school. Now one secondary school. Now, one can also tell all of finishing off, Mr. Assistant Speaker, we need quality teachers. You got producing quality student, you must get quality teachers. Quality students will come from quality teachers. You know, why you put them half-cooked teachers, why you go inside and producing quality students? No, quality. So make sure that all teachers too, you must give them good education. All people who got teachers who got diploma, all must go some degree. All who got degree, so some long on your right must go some master's degree. Now you're going to PhD. Me go to America, or set him University of Lutheran. Me go, Mr. Speaker. Me go to America. Now me like recruiting all teachers who come to teach at the University of Lutheran or Lutheran University. Now all monkey, sorry, no monkey. All yamla marry no yamla man. All finish no masters qualifying. No one asking me long. But me, 2 years old, I come teach elementary. I don't come teach me long, teaching all monkey university or high school. Oh, talk Mr. Governor. Long have also talk Lord Governor. Let me put it on through. All call me Lord Governor. They talk to him, Lord Governor, you got position to teach him elementary. I'm a master's qualifying in education. I'm a master's qualifying in science. Now me, let me when I'm a pending go answer him earlier because me place I put in grade 10, grade 6 or elementary. Teach him all elementary. But there are teachers out there who are most qualified. Masters qualifying, retired professors, they want to come and provide services on volunteer basis, Mr. Speaker. All nothing to no come money. Money is stable pocket blood finish. That's all I help him this country. Because together, long education, this world will become powerful. This world is already becoming a world of dependency. So we can help. In the third world, we're highly qualified. We can provide the human resources to the developed world. We can. And they do this, they're doing it, but we should do that. Only in education, Mr. Speaker. And we like to thank you, Mr. Minister, nice statement to you. Is there any way that I can help you as the governor of Blumorbe? I'm there to help to implement this policy. The policy is salient. There's no question about it. It's a salient policy, and we should feel obliged to assist you to implement in whatever possible. Mr. Speaker, thank you for allowing me to speak.
Prime Minister.
Mr. Assistant Speaker, thank you. I'll give some statement in support to the Minister. A quick short statement. The last 3 years we have not just been talking, as many in the opposite, including the public opposites, try to think we have not been doing anything. In the education sector, we brought back 55,000 kids who's been left behind on the sidewalk into second chance learning. Today, through the flexible, open, distance education, we roll out second chance education in a big way. 55,000 children in that space doing second chance education as we speak. Melagaski Mokara Pikin Limi said you're losing grade 8, grade 9, grade 10, grade 11, grade 12. You start a place, you had them through the Islam media. You know, monkey nothing, marry nothing, boy nothing, girl nothing. You got named by the country. Go along district below you, ask him district education advisor. May like make him get high school courses through FOD. Minister outside the president's statement is a product of the FOD education system, but has been left on the sidewalk for a long time. He re-educated himself, and then through FOD grade 12, and we go along university, now we stop awesome university, graduate, he work, and come up politician. Maybe open this FOD pathway, outside finishing grade 12 FOD, you got same opportunity to apply long post grade 12 education. That is why you may make him talk. Every child in our country must be educated to grade 12 or so. Milag also talks along somebody talked to the minister. 2 years ago, we started the first batch of specialized high result science students into our School of Excellence. This year, we are graduating the first batch from DISPLA all intake in 2020 grade 10 exam. First grade 12 graduate, DISPLA stem cell or STEM courses of beginning, but graduate today, especially all is got high IQ long maths, na science, na English, also Governor Morobe talked to Glick. From this batch, we will piloting one concept, pick him. The first 100, partner one time defense, we will salim all, go sponsor him all to the best school, ground, kiss him sawe, doctor. Now work medical space. The best 100 of this batch, we said it's in our grade 12 exam this year. From the science, maths students, we'll pick 100 best performing students. We'll sponsor them all, go outside. Long specialist training, come up doctor, medical technicians, lo kam lo film in space long walk long housing luyumi. Milag also talk sawa some education something where people pay school fee now ogara something fees from elementary all the way to university. National government look at him. If you may all gonna leaders luyumi, you may walk lo tromai this 2 million each come long DSIP, PSIP. Total meeting 1 year will be 236. If you may all get a district work lo focus long improving infrastructure. Now, Governor Morobe me hamas larem talk to you. Education is a devolved function. If you at the provincial education advisory board level, work lo you may convert him over high school go to secondary school, and hopefully in time in the next 5 to 10 years, every child finishing primary school or enter him high school, na somebody to solve, like help him Yumi. Education is a long walk, but it is a walk that can take us to the destination of a happy, healthy, wealthy, and satisfied nation that Vision 2050 talk long and by me reach him 2050. If the next 20 years you're not going to walk education faithfully, we can get there. What we have today as restlessness in society, in my view, points directly to the failure of our society to embrace the many dropouts we have in our country. Dropouts from grade 8, grade 10, grade 12. And I just want to appeal to all our leaders. We've tried to start the work in the last 3 years, but the work will carry on. Education is a living plan. You establish a district, you establish a province, and you look at you need to improve. Please put him down in writing, give him education minister. People are ready to help him. You may progress in this plan, but good things has started already. We are paying full school fee again next year and going forward. Me appeal. National government by paying school fee, na Sabadim education, na some specialist programs, province, na district take ownership of infrastructure, na parents and citizens. And Prime Minister no togi lo karam pigini, you karam pigini. You karam pigini, walk lilo, you too must got walk. You know karam pigini lose him taso. Na me like pinisim talk in support lo minister ask you papa mama lo this lo country. No can think of some government paying school fee now, na you play casco too late. You sit down lo cas candies as all. Go lo coffee garden, go lo copra garden, go lo cacao garden. 2024 onwards we'll start a policy. 23 Bambla total free. 2024 2025 onwards, Papa Mama, you produce him 10,000 kina worth of agricultural produce. Suppose you know got work, Bambla carry him on Sabbath and picking him blue loads, let's go for something. You must make him citizen or make him work now. Not gonna expect him ever over something free. So but today me asking Papa Mama, pan him hand blue or work on cacao, copra, coffee. Not gonna stop that all because you work. But you support him country, look at money, look pay him school fee, look beginning. You asking me, where's that money long? How about people make him cacao, copra, coffee? Government put him in his price support. Today, coffee's price is about 10 kina. 10 kina lo 1 kilo. Suppose you got 10 plus 50 kg back and 5,000 kina, you kiss him penis. That money you earn him blow you yet, but support local economy. The government can pay free school go yet. So me asking Papa Mama, you got work play. Government will pay free school next year again, go forward. We will put in road block all school leavers, will come back, will upgrade him grade 8, grade 9, grade 10, grade 12. We will also planning work here as well as casual work overseas, including Australia. We will like sponsor him picking it and go beyond grade 12 into universities and colleges. Government make him slow work. Member governor, you may make him more classroom, primary and high schools. And work lo Papa Mama. You try and pan him hand blue you long work long agriculture, work lo tourism, work lo forestry. Now look at him law and order. Together you can fix him country, move him country go forward. Mr. Assistant Speaker, I want to Misla me like move him was a debate lo education, talk lo education minister. You may adjourn him long, not lo sitting lo behind time.
The question is that the motion be agreed to. Those in favor say aye. Those against, say no. The ayes have it. Honourable members, ministerial statements. Minister for Public Enterprise.
I don't need leave. Thank you, Mr. Assistant Speaker. Mr. Assistant Speaker, I'd like to commence this ministerial statement by acknowledging and congratulating, belatedly congratulating our Prime Minister, the Honorable James Marape, Mr. Assistant Speaker, yourself, the Deputy Prime Minister, the Honorable John Rosso, fellow ministers, the Leader of the Opposition, Honorable Joseph Lelang, and each of you, my fellow members of this 11th Parliament, for being elected by our people to represent them again in Parliament. Mr. Assistant Speaker, I'd also like to record my appreciation to Prime Minister Marape for his unwavering confidence and continued support in my efforts to improve the performance and profitability of our state-owned enterprises as Minister responsible for this portfolio, including Kumul Agriculture, Kumul Petroleum Holdings, and Kumul Mineral Holdings. Mr. Assistant Speaker, we've, since 2019, when this Marape government decided to embark on a very comprehensive SOE reform program, witnessed numerous improvements across a range of measures, starting from financial audits to company performance. This includes, for example, Mr. Assistant Speaker, the turnaround of our airline company, Air Guinea, from crippling losses to achieving sustainability whilst navigating the turbulent and unprecedented restrictions caused by a global pandemic, namely COVID-19, and the record-breaking profit margins delivered by PNG Ports Corporation Limited. Mr. Assistant Speaker, with our donor partners from the Asian Development Bank, friendly countries such as Australia, Japan, New Zealand, the United States, and more recently France, and our other bilateral and multilateral affiliations, our SOE reform program, progressed by our own company, Kumul Consolidated Holdings Limited, centers around high-level objectives that encourage financial stability, delivery excellence, robust governance, performance disclosure, transparency, growth, and inclusivity. The key reforms, Mr. Speaker. A reform program, as we all know, is a challenging undertaking for any government in any country. Success is based upon numerous factors, and results are often delivered not immediately but after many years of restructuring and recapitalization. Some of the key reforms achieved since 2019, when the Marape government took office, and endorsed by the government itself, include, Mr. Speaker, firstly, amendments to the enabling legislation within the KCH Act, providing greater oversight, improved accountability, disclosure, and responsibility. Secondly, establishment of a project capital investment committee to provide additional due diligence to ensure both commercial viability and project effectiveness. Thirdly, qualifying and quantifying the value of community service obligations undertaken by the various SOEs to better understand tariff requirements and accurate cost of capital pricing. Fourthly, creation of a board of directors through an independent search and merit-based selection process, including gender inclusivity, with more than 20% or 25% of our SOE boards now comprised of female directors. Fifth, completion of financial audits up to 2021 to ensure accountability and transparency, with effort now being expended to ensure disclaimer notices are cleared so that accurate financial positions of our SOEs can be ascertained. Mr. Speaker, this relates to all our SOEs being up to date and clearance being given by the Auditor General's Office, things which have never been done before, but we've been able to do it, and we are up to date to 2021, Mr. Assistant Speaker. Sixth, merging of telecom and B-Mobile to develop substantial savings and ensuring that only one B-Mobile company, not two, being able to compete against Digital and others. Seventh, separating PNG Datacore from Tumul Telecom Holdings and establishing an independent wholesale communications company. Next, merging of Edaranu and Water PNG to develop substantial savings and strengthen the balance sheets for future capital development when it comes to providing affordable water and sewage services to our urban centers and rural areas. Ninth, restructuring and improving any Guinean telecom, resulting in improved operating and financial performance of any Guinea and positioning telecom for partial privatization. 10th, commencement of the ownership restructuring program of Port Moresby Water, part of Water PNG, and Edaranu merger. 11th, settling of significant arrears for service delivered between our government and the SOEs. Next, 12th, establishment of the SOE board and management key performance indicator review to ensure that all of those who are involved are accountable for the decisions made by them. 13, substantial capital investment programs undertaken by KCH in the energy, communications, and technology sectors. 14, progressing partial privatization for telecom, People's Macro Bank, and any Guinea for capital fundraising and improved performance. 15, provisioning of working capital support by KCH to our SOEs during stress conditions resulting from restrictions imposed by COVID-19. 16, commencement of the development of the KCH Property Land Bank program to repurpose and monetize all the extensive land owned by our SOEs right throughout the country and building assets across the country and diversifying capital raising. 17th, securing significant bilateral investment through grant and concessional borrowing, including the 1.5 billion Kina Port Development Upgrade Project from Australia and the 1 billion Kina Power Sector Development Project to connect houses to sustainable energy. And 18th, Mr. Assistant Speaker, continuing the Marabe government's SME financial package to our small businessmen and women through the National Development Bank. Mr. Assistant Speaker, the completion of the various sub-programs of our SOE reform was instrumental in demonstrating compliance with the ADB policy-based lending facility, resulting in the drawdown of $100 million in 2020, $150 million in 2021, and a further $250 million for 2022. Mr. Speaker, concessional lending from Australia was extended as a result of gains made in the name of the 2019 SOE reforms started by the Marabe government. Reform results, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Assistant Speaker, we recognize that we still have a lot of substantial work yet to be completed. However, since 2019, the SOE reform program has generated tangible results, and these have demonstrated in the form of improved service delivery, revenues, profits, and dividends as follows. Number one, Mr. Assistant Speaker, total SOE dividend has increased from 50 million Kina back in 2018, before the reform program was introduced, to 130 million Kina in 2022. Consolidated revenue from the SOEs has increased from 3 billion Kina in 2018 to 3.5 billion in 2022. Consolidated profit and loss after tax has increased by over, Mr. Assistant Speaker, over 200% from a loss in 2018 to a forecasted profit in 2022. This, Mr. Assistant Speaker, is an amazing achievement despite the impact of COVID-19 restrictions, the volatility of fuel pricing from the war in Ukraine, and the global inflationary pressures in general. Mr. Speaker, any Guinea in particular recorded 43% customer growth compared to last year, and this translates to sales exceeding 1.1 billion Kina for 2022, and will be profitable for the first time in 5 years. Mr. Speaker, our NDB loan customers have increased by more than 120% as a result of the 80 million Kina that were injected by the Marabe Rosso government. Mr. Assistant Speaker, telecom customers have increased by 27% compared to last year. Cargo across major ports in lay and motor care have increased to an average of 6% despite the global downturn and logistic challenges from China. 8, Mr. Speaker, the commencement of the grid electrification upgrade program for Port Moresby and Ley Ramu, a series of infrastructure development and rehabilitation projects. Number 9, the commencement of a comprehensive fuel switch program seeking opportunities to transition from expensive diesel generation through gas and to more sustainable alternatives like hydroelectricity and solar, which is in line with the global push for cleaner and greener energy. 10th, Mr. Speaker, commencement of a debt restructuring program through the establishment of the KCH Debt Management Committee to explore and deliver cash flow savings against existing KCH and SOE debts. This includes the payout of the 250 million PNG Ports Motor Care Expansion Loan. And 11th, Mr. Assistant Speaker, the appointment of SOE boards of directors and senior management independently and on merit for the first time in so many years through a stringent selection process, noting that 14% of the current directors are women with a goal to reach 50% by 2030. Mr. Assistant Speaker, as at September 2022, the net value of the assets of our SOEs and KCH was 6.1 billion kina, representing year-on-year growth of 28%. For the year 2022, our SOEs have projected revenues of 3.5 billion. That's up 17% from last year, with PNG Ports Corporation, NE Guinea, and MBL being the best performing SOEs. Mr. Assistant Speaker, these are not small organizations. They are about 7,100 employees across our 9 SOEs, possessing a variety of qualifications and experience. The SOEs are required to deliver competent, effective, and accessible services with an appropriate return on investment for our people who continue to remain the shareholders. Mr. Assistant Speaker, as previously indicated, dividend returns to the state have grown year on year to a projected 130 million kina for this year, which will be declared once the books are closed early next year. Mr. Assistant Speaker, at this juncture, I'd like to indicate that KCH has commenced contributing towards our much talked about Sovereign Wealth Fund under the leadership of Prime Minister Marabe. Is designed to support our country's efforts to achieve economic stability and sustainability. Its dividend of 80 million kina for the year 2019 has been applied in accordance with the NEC decision number 29 of 2019, and a sum of 5.6 million has already been paid to a trust account to be then used as the first deposit in the Sovereign Wealth Fund. This, Mr. Assistant Speaker, is the first contribution ever towards this program and is testament of the Marabe government's desire to not only diversify economic drivers, but also encourage a culture of savings to access sustainable fiscal mechanisms. We will be directing dividends, or will be expecting dividends from Kumul Petroleum Holdings and Kumul Mill Holdings to the Sovereign Wealth Fund following the lead of KCH. Mr. Assistant Speaker, this government is using the proceeds of today's investments to provide surety for our people's future needs. The SOE challenges, Mr. Speaker, the challenges that we face are both local, requiring public policy solutions, and global, requiring appropriate international public finance solutions and a fairer global ordering, one that encourages countries in strategic positions such as ours, Papua New Guinea, to prosper through market access and enable innovative solutions to tackle unique development challenges. The world itself, as we know, is grappling with inflation, war, and changing weather patterns, which are impacting our country to increase cost of goods and services, and of course, extreme weather. Mr. Assistant Speaker, as a consequence of these challenges, we experience poor operating circumstances, an increase in the frequency of blackouts, high non-revenue earning water position, significant increase in operating costs, flight cancellations, and poor telecommunications connectivity. Mr. Assistant Speaker, these challenges are not unsurmountable, but they must be met with innovative approaches if we are to succeed comprehensively. Mr. Speaker, first, our SOEs require targeted, sustained capital investment funding to assist in the replacement of aging infrastructure and assets. Any Guinea, for instance, must undergo a substantial fleet replacement program to future-proof the company to meet our changing requirements. Decision will be made very soon to replace our older aircraft, Mr. Speaker. Second, community service obligations are necessary and must be quantified, contracted, and supported through government subsidies. PNG Power must absorb about 500 million in obligations each year to ensure power is provided across the smaller, unprofitable centers. PNG Power has continued to absorb the increased cost to its business, such as fuel, recognizing that PNG Power has not benefited from a tariff increase for nearly 10 years. Tariff reform is necessary, Mr. Speaker, to support the evolving businesses, the changes to the various sectors, and to accurately reflect the true cost of capital. We can no longer rely on fossil fuel-based power generation, but it is presently cheaper than building more sustainable alternatives. Tariffs must be established to favor and incentivize sustainable energy production. Fourth, Mr. Speaker, we must instill a culture of project ownership and execution and recognize that competitive advantage is a vital part of our business strategy if our SOEs are to become profitable and sustainable. Five, projects that are being completed are often substantially over-budgeted or delayed by a number of issues. The SOE debt continues to present challenges to KCH and the general business trust. Cash flow pressures are increased due to the excessive cost of borrowing and stressed balance sheet, making it difficult to expand our businesses. Mr. Speaker, topographic, demographic, and economic challenges mean that innovative solutions must be sought by us to provide services. One size will not fit all in PNG, as we know. Our SOEs must invest in projects that deliver regardless of the obstacles. Mr. Speaker, insufficient monetization of assets developed due to inadequate skills capacity and resource limitation with the SOEs are a problem. But once infrastructure is developed, it must result in revenue growth so that debt associated with that infrastructure can be serviced, but at a profit. Mr. Speaker, there are significant opportunities to partner with multilateral and bilateral agencies to develop useful infrastructure and supportive policy. We must ensure that projects are well structured with clear outcomes to ensure delivery is achieved to expectation. We must encourage effective donor coordination and cohesion towards high-impact investments in our SOEs, particularly addressing water, sanitation, and power challenges in our cities and towns. Mr. Speaker, we must create competent service continuity through better resourcing, better risk awareness and management, and strengthen operations through implementation of appropriate plans and capital investment. And that is how we can start programs to avoid numerous blackouts, Mr. Speaker. We must ensure adequate working capital for our SOEs to become self-sufficient. This will ensure that our SOEs can meet their credit obligations in full and, of course, in a very timely manner. Mr. Speaker, we need a comprehensive capital works program to see sizable rehabilitation and replacement of assets across our SOEs. We recognize the engagement by donor partners with concession lending and grant facilities. Mr. Assistant Speaker, our SOEs are in the condition they are in today due to a history of poor accountability, poor investment decision-making by previous boards and management, challenging operating environments resulting from global pandemics and wars such as in the Middle East and Ukraine. Where we have executed initiatives competently and responsibly, Mr. Speaker, we see improved performance figures and service delivery as demonstrated earlier. When you do things carefully and properly, we see results. Mr. Assistant Speaker, if we want our SOEs to perform effectively and profitably, they must demonstrate that they can be self-reliant. Where appropriate, we must continue to invest in them, but we will do so wisely and with greater oversight. We must sometimes necessarily politically interfere in some of our SOEs. Mr. Assistant Speaker, we recognize the sovereign obligations they have to nation building, and we will support SOEs to remain sustainable and ensure they appropriately monetize the assets that are being built. Mr. Assistant Speaker, for the way forward, as we look forward, our strategy is to build on the work already completed with continued focus on the turnaround sustainability, drive productivity, improve revenues, reduce costs, and implement debt reduction strategies to rebuild the value of the general business trust. Ultimately, Mr. Assistant Speaker, this will lead to improved services for our people and a sustained return on investment for our government. Mr. Assistant Speaker, the Marabe government, we have laid the foundation for success in the SOEs through improved governance and capacity building starting in 2019 so that we can execute an aggressive growth strategy through the turning around of the performance of our SOEs, commercializing the underutilized assets in their balance sheets, and investing, of course, in the core infrastructure. Mr. Assistant Speaker, as we consider the significant numbers of projects that our government has successfully negotiated and announced, including the Papua LNG project, for example, it is critical that we capitalize on the national content opportunities before us. We must ensure a legacy remains for the benefits for our people beyond the life of the project construction period. These projects should be a major catalyst for sustained economic development and employment growth. KCH, Mr. Assistant Speaker, in partnership with the Department of National Planning and the Department of Treasury, have been identifying projects of national significance that will optimize national content, encourage the onshoring of manufacturing opportunities from abroad, and contribute to the development of a dedicated, skilled workforce. Mr. Assistant Speaker, we understand the importance of having a balanced investment portfolio to reduce the risk exposure on the general business trust. As a result, KCH has embarked on a journey to diversify its investments to reduce its risk exposure in line with its stabilize, invest, and grow strategy. This includes diversifying the investment portfolio into more liquid capital markets with the aim to participate in bond and stock markets where relevant financial instruments, equities, and debt securities are used to grow and invest in the general business trust. Mr. Assistant Speaker, we continue to develop strategies and associated plans to progress the SOEs to achieve their core objectives of, number one, the delivery of competent, accessible, reliable, and affordable services. Number two, the provision of an appropriate return on investment by our government. Mr. Assistant Speaker, KCH and the SOEs have developed and agreed on a series of strategic objectives that focus on customer growth, delivery excellence, regulatory compliance, and workforce culture, among other key components. These objectives form the basis of the way forward for our SOEs. Number one, employment of formal customer growth strategies and targeted investment programs. Number two, realigning the KCH SOE procurement system to comply with the amended KCH Act to ensure greater transparency, accountability, and value for money in all procurement arrangements. Number three, negotiate a sectoral development program funded by the ADB and other donors to support projects that encourage incremental revenue growth and improved service levels. Number 4, establish and adopt the KCH SOE PIP coordination and monitoring performance based on commercial and developmental investments. Number 5, establishment of the KCH Infrastructure Development Committee to maintain oversight of projects of substantial national importance over and above 250 million in value, tasked with ensuring project execution. Number 6, encourage investment diversification, including the establishment and development of a property portfolio and the Invest in PNG program, an industrial park to facilitate in-country manufacturing to meet resource projects, engineering, procurement, construction requirements while satisfying our project national content obligations. Number 7, continued improvement in financial audits to ensure unqualified audit opinions and continue our commitment to disclosure of SOE financial performances. Number 8, completion of the partial privatization of telecom retail and mobile access network. Commencement, number 9, commencement of the privatization of any Guinea. Number 10, accelerate KCH and National Planning and Monitoring Infrastructure Management Facility to provide oversight for the rolling out of projects associated with the public investment program. Number 11, continue to monetize assets, including the Fairfax Port Development Project, the commercialization of the existing facilities to a major modern commercial, residential, tourism and public recreation precinct. Number 12, complete the commercialization of the People's Microbank Limited that will result in a new commercial bank to compete with the existing commercial banks so our people can have access to competitive banking services. This is the much talked about National Banking Corporation, which will take off under the leadership of Prime Minister next year. Number 13, Mr. Assistant Speaker, to formalize our SOE community service obligation commitments with government and agree on funding sources for these uncommercial but essential services for our people. Number 14, working to develop and adopt appropriate legislative and regulatory arrangements for the respective sectors which we operate in. Number 15, feasibility assessment and construction of over 150 megawatts of sustainable energy generation through mini hydropower stations and commercial solar farms. Number 16, the establishment of a regional aviation training facility for the engineering and pilot skills development, including state-of-the-art aircraft flight simulators and new hangars. Number 17, re-establishment of telecom technical college in Leh as a skills-based training technical college for all state-owned enterprises with the investment of over 100 million kina in partnership with the University of Technology Leh, Telecom, and the Department of National Planning. And 18, and more importantly, Mr. Speaker, for the first time in many, many years, the Marawi government allocating 200 million kina in next year's national budget to help SOE deliver on the programs which I have outlined in this statement. The government recognizes the importance of the SOEs and the role they play in the economic development of our country. And of course, more funding from the SOE, from the government for SOEs this year as well. Mr. Assistant Speaker, to conclude, we have navigated through some of the most demanding economic and social times ever recorded. The fundamentals laid over the past 3 years when this government took office back in 2019 will enable us to capitalize on the bright future we have in front of us. Never have we had so many large-scale projects aimed at improving access to quality health services, education, access to markets, both domestic and international, clean running water, uninterrupted affordable clean energy, and affordable telecommunication services. This is the government we should all be proud of. And finally, Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the party I lead, the ministry and my people of Agen, I'd like to thank the Prime Minister, the Honorable James Marabi, this government, and of course, the members of this parliament for your continued service to our SOEs. May God bless the Malawi government. May God bless Papua New Guinea. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Governor of Western Britain.
Thank you, Mr. Assistant Speaker. I move that Parliament take note of Honourable Minister for SOE statements, and I wish to make a little comment.
Make a comment.
Thank you, Mr. Assistant Speaker. Let me congratulate the Minister for State Enterprise, Honourable William Duma, for these wonderful positive statements all about the performance of our 9 different SOEs in the midst of various challenges. Being his predecessor for a very little time, I thank the Minister for carrying forward with all those reforms we were talking about. Mr. Assistant Speaker, when we were talking about reforms, we were not talking about anything big. We were talking about basic things like merit-based appointments, disclosing financial statements, or publishing the corporate intent in the beginning of the year, or quantifying the community obligation projects, as we expect many of our SOEs to perform various community obligation projects. Mr. Assistant Speaker, even our development partners like even Asian Development Bank at the time even agreed to support almost $500 million of funding in 3 years, in 3 different payments, which is almost equal to 2 billion kina, just to do the right thing on a concessional loan, especially for our budget support. And Mr. Speaker, I thank the Minister for actually securing those funds. Even I think, if I'm not mistaken, still we have another $250 million to receive from this Asian Development Bank source, and also to invest in much needed aging infrastructure in various SOEs. Of course, the majority of funding is actually meant for our budget support, but I thank the government for supporting the minister by allocating certain portion of this amount to support various SOEs. Mr. Assistant Speaker, if we need to talk about every single SOEs, it has a very lengthy presentation. But some of those SOEs which are really struggling and which Minister is giving his full effort to support. For example, PNG Power. PNG Power, technically, it's struggling with its financial constraints, and also technically it's also being insolvent. Mr. Speaker, PNG Power carries various loss-making operations, as Minister just alluded through his statement. It has like almost over 500 million kina worth of operations which it needs to carry out. Whether it makes profit or not, even our province, Mr. Assistant Speaker, it depends on 4 diesel generator. It's running like 4 megawatt of power, but even that, we are struggling to give power 24/7. If we are getting power for 4 to 5 hours, then we are considered lucky. So these are the loss-making operations, not just one, but there are many, even province like New Ireland. It needs only 2 megawatt of power, but it also struggles with providing constant supply of power. And I would suggest, Mr. Assistant Speaker, those loss-making operations must be absorbed by our provincial governments, which has the capacity. Mr. Assistant Speaker, even out of desperation, we don't know what to do. When I was started constructing power lines, Mr. Assistant Speaker, you don't believe after 47 years we started building a huge power line starting from Kimbe all the way to Thalassia. We reached Bola village just about 5-6 kilometers before Thalassia. And also towards Nakanai district, we started even from main road to various deep villages called Silanga, Tharobi, and many other these places, including some connectivity program. Mr. Assistant Speaker, while we are building these power lines, we thought like the situation of generation will improve. And when PNG Power was facing the challenges, we even gave them 1 million kina for them to buy an additional generator so that they can put power on our grid. But unfortunately, that's not the case. And I've been ridiculed by people saying that, oh, you continue to build power lines. Where is the power going to come from? Mr. Speaker, as Minister rightly said, for KCH to invest in various sustainable power supplies like hydros or solar farms. In West New Britain also we have some potential hydro facilities, especially in our Roo Creek, and also our Lobo Hydro in Biala, which currently producing less than 1.5 megawatt, which has the potential of up to 5 megawatt of power to produce, which can be 100% sustainable. And even otherwise, New Britain Palm Oil, in partnership with New Britain Palm Oil, we can also do the methane gas plant, which also has the potential to generate additional 2 megawatt of power. But the main challenge is for PNG Power to provide those power, and even PNG Power to even bill it properly to the people and collect revenue. Mr. Assistant Speaker, you won't believe the more than 50% of loss come from the non-revenue water or non-revenue or those invoices not properly invoiced to people and collected money. The main challenge which the various SOEs, like immediately after the departure of that other Malaysian company in Edarano, when even we are struggling to come up with a billing system where that company used to use. And now many people have not even received invoices and all those things, and we are losing money that we call it as non-revenue water. So there are a lot of gaps to fill in, which Minister is rightly addressing, to invest in various these sectors, these SOEs, whereby he's trying to address these challenges, and to just by fixing this non-revenue water or this non-collected fees or uncollected fees, I think we can immediately show some profit. Mr. Speaker, I'm glad even during my time, and it's until now, it's continuously PNG ports are providing a record level of dividend. Mr. Assistant Speaker, you'll be surprised to see few years back, and PNG Power was not even making any money until such a time, even the current minister's time, when he decided, the ministry decided to privatize partly, privatize in a sense just the operational of Port Moresby and lay operations of ports. Just becoming a landlord itself, we are collecting a lot of money, Mr. Assistant Speaker, without actually doing, in fact, without we involved in direct operations, the movement of ships have increased, the cargoes have increased, the business have increased, and PNG Ports able to collect more revenue by just becoming a landlord and able to give government the record level of dividends to KCH. Mr. Speaker, I also noted from Minister's statement that first time the government made a decision to reserve some money for Sovereign Wealth Fund, and Minister has executed it for even, it's a small amount like 5-6 million kina, but that is really a good start. As an example, KCH has already started, and I'm sure Kumul Petroleum and Kumul Minerals also will follow suit, doing the same thing as KCH doing for reserving some funds as of bringing that saving culture for future use. Mr. Speaker, I also noted one of the important comment Mr. Minister had made about commercializing our People's Micro Bank, one of the best performing bank, though it's under National Development Bank. It had a lot of challenges to fix, but Minister's effort to commercialize this People's Micro Bank also should be supported. I must also admit, Mr. Assistant Speaker, I am one of the largest customer for this People's Micro Bank, even though in the interest rate is more than 10 to 12%, but I still remain faithful to this bank, even before I became the minister for this particular portfolio. But overall, Mr. Assistant Speaker, the minister has done extremely well in the midst of so many challenges in terms of dealing with our development partners, and also keep engaging with our multilateral partners, especially our funding agencies like ADB, World Bank, and also those 4 friendly countries like Australia, New Zealand, US, and Japan, to continue to pursue the dreams of connecting power lines to length and breadth of our country, and continuously working with these development partners to bring the much needed support for various SOEs. As a government also, Mr. Assistant Speaker, I encourage that we as a government also, being one of the major customer for all these SOEs, we also honor all our commitments. Sometimes it would be unfair to blame PNG Power or Telecom or any other SOEs when we ourselves do not pay our bills on time. If I'm not mistaken, at any point of time, we would be owing them more than 150 or 200 million kina put together. And I'm sure one of the reform we aimed at also for government to keep, reduce these outstanding and also pay all our bills to especially PNG Power, because we can't blame when we do not pay the bills and they can't afford to buy fuel and other challenges in the midst of various other challenges like Forex and other issues. But Mr. Assistant Speaker, this is a wonderful announcement to this Parliament that we're hearing about all the positive statements from Minister, talking about merit-based appointment, talking about disclosing the financial returns, talking about improving governance, talking about even setting up an infrastructure committee for any projects which are more than 250 million kina projects, which these are efforts we must really appreciate and support. Mr. Speaker, I'm sure we also support the Minister for, when we say privatization, Mr. Assistant Speaker, we are not just talking about selling these companies away. It is, privatization is for giving opportunity for our own super funds, our own people to invest in these kind of sectors, like if Minister brings that arrangement for privatization, especially for commercializing these telecom assets, commercializing this Air Niugini, which gives a great opportunity for our super funds also to invest and also grow with these businesses. So sometimes the public, without knowing, jumping up and down about this privatization, but they easily forget about the PNGBC, how it was commercialized and became BSP and now became a multi-billion company and able to provide a record level of dividends to its clients, which we, Papua New Guineans, owning this bank more than 40 to 45% of these assets. So we welcome that partial privatization arrangement by KCH and also the Minister's effort to commercialize these assets. Mr. Assistant Speaker, Minister also rightly mentioned about the debt strategy. It's so much of stress in our balance sheet because of huge debts, and I'm thankful for the government. During my time, it wasn't easy, but Minister managed to convince the government to carry some of these major debts, especially the debts which are taken for major infrastructures. Like some of these debts are yet to be really commercialized, like our state-of-the-art 4G towers done with over $150 million, of investment, and also the Kumul undersea cables, which currently we are facing the challenges in terms of the cable breaking up and all. But these are huge investments which KCH alone cannot carry this debt, and I'm glad and thankful that the government is, through Treasury, willing to carry some of these debts as state's debt, so that these companies can also grow. As Minister rightly said, we need to replace some of these aging infrastructures in order to improve the performance of these companies, and otherwise we won't be able to compete with our private newcomers. Like just a new company comes in, within a month or two or within a year, they're able to take over already an established company like Telecom. So that's a real challenge, and I'm also thankful the Minister have signed up an agreement with Lay Unitech in order to provide those trainings for our telecom employees and various technical trainings with an investment of over 100 million in partnership with our University of Technology of Lay, because it's a huge commercial land which is owned by Telecom, and I'm glad to see that it will be put into good use for providing training for our all local employees. And we are thankful that it's over 7,000 employees government is providing employment for. And the more we grow the business, the more employment opportunities we can give it to our people. Overall, Mr. Assistant Speaker, once again I congratulate the Minister, and I'm thankful for the Ministers for his continued effort to implement these reforms and bring much needed development for our SOEs, which our people are the shareholder. Thank you, Mr. Assistant Speaker.
Leader of Government Business.
Mr. Assistant Speaker, thank you. Before me moving motion to me, Mr. Speaker, me like this commend him, Minister Blong SOE, for the initiatives he's taken in the last 2 years, and now in the next 5 years, and the reforms and the pathway and put him in terms of reforming SOE. Mr. Assistant Speaker, I think I particularly notice that for the first time, as a government, we've been able to give full responsibilities. I've been, in my first 5 years, Mr. Lugun Plant, the SOE is a Bruko Kam, a couple of different ministers,
different places. But under this new government now, Mr. Speaker, full responsibility is given to our good SOE minister. And with that comfort of having responsibility and oversight of all our SOEs, is able to put together this reform and the great work he's doing now, Mr. Speaker. And that goes to show the level of respect from a distance of Prime Minister Gimiplo, ministers, to be able to do what we are tasked to do in our KPIs and the work that we need to do. And I commend him, Minister Blong SOE, or plenty work and make him na. Particularly on that note, the continuous support to Mipla's government give him SOE. Mr. Speaker, I must say that sometimes people blame him on SOE like Governor Blong, West Britain he talk. But Mipla government again, Mipla dina man lo SOE again. When it comes to power bills, water bill, utilities, Mipla dina man again long SOEs blame again. So I think the right pathway Mipla government sim now is to see where we can assist in terms of major PIP interventions. And Assistant Speaker, as you've seen in the budget, we've made a major allocation of 200 million, apart from the 100 million we've given this year, and the next 200 million that we've included in the budget for next year. And I'm hoping that we can continue that program for the next 5 years, so we can get all our SOEs up to speed with major reforms that is spearheaded by our good SOE Minister and his team under him. So this is a commendation. Me talk thank you long SOE Minister. Want them government me put him in the space of SOE. Assistant Speaker, me talk thank you long. Opposition leader was in on the team me through long. I stay come now today too. Sample space slap and empty, but me talk thank you long. Our leaders long. Opposition you missing down on no team debate. Our leaders on this side as well. Assistant Speaker, I time camera sim Oceana looking was some CNT or thing was all member no come, but maybe I can just place on record that most of our members are attending to election petitions inside long courthouse. And sometimes we report that they are not coming in late, they are coming in late and they are not in the chambers. I think just to put it on record, most of our members are at some point now required to be in those courthouses dealing with the election petitions. So, no good man medicine no looking was a budget time now, no member in stop, no got courthouse too, for semi blow sina nitin ram case blow symbol election petition. So we might see the chairs empty, and I think was a while member, come long. Debate the Senate of Parliament. So, Mr. Assistant Speaker, while we have the cameras and the media here, some of our members are attending to the election petitions, and by election rules, I think the new rules, the members are required to be physically present in the courthouse when the cases are heard. So you can imagine, suppose 100 case will wait now, look him, a case will come on board. So me just look him all chairs up, no good all media thing or some country thing, no got budget come, no why me member no Siranchal of Parliament. So, Assistant Speaker, thank you. Through one time, like me, la move was me genim Parliament go. I mean, like move was me genim debate. There's a debate long SOE, long different time. Thank you. And first, move blomi. Thank you, Assistant Speaker.
The question is that the debate be moved to our agenda to next. The debate be adjourned. Those in favor say aye. Those against, say no. The ayes have it. Leader of government business.
Assistant Speaker, thank you, True. Me like now move us immediately in Parliament go tomorrow 10 a.m. Thank you.
The question is that the motion be agreed to. Those in favor say aye. Those against, say no. Honorable members, I now adjourn Parliament to 10 a.m. tomorrow.